Now, the client-side configuration covered a lot of operating systems. Many of the operating systems you're very, very used to. So what I'm going to focus on is some of the iOS configurations that we haven't had as much experience with, or many of us haven't had as much experience with. The first one we're going to talk about is the Apple iOS handheld devices. Now, what I would like you to do is write down the process you would use with an Apple iOS system in order to configure the device for wireless, what type of wireless settings we would use. I would also like you to write down the 4 types of EAP supported by Apple iOS handheld devices. Now, I know what you're saying. That's not very fair, Russ. Uh, I don't have this memorized. These are important things. That's why we're doing this exercise. So go ahead and pause the video now and let's start. I want you to just, at the very beginning here, give me the 4 types of EAP supported by Apple iOS. All right, hopefully you had time to write that down. You paused your video, you're all done. And now, spoiler alert, I'm going to give you the 4 different types of EAP supported by Apple iOS handheld devices. Are you ready? First off is Leap. I hope that was one of your options you chose. The next is TTLS. Then we have PEEP, and then we had EAP Fast. So those are the 4 types supported by Apple iOS. Now remember, many operating systems support many different types of this EAP process. So you have to be aware of your limitations. So that's the first part of my question. Great job. If you didn't get all 4, I would ask that you would spend the time to remember that Leap, TTLS, PEEP, and EAP Fast for the Apple iOS handheld devices. Now, what would you do? What would you do to join in an Apple iOS operating system? What are the steps you would take? There's about 9 of them altogether. I want you to go ahead and write it down on a piece of paper, see how close we are to getting all 9. Now pause your video here because I'm about to give the answer. Go ahead and pause. I'm going to put in a little pause here. All right, let's take a look at what everyone had. Number 1, what are we going to do first if we want to do anything within the Apple iOS sphere of control? Well, you're going to want to go to the settings icon. Those are the gears which allow you to make changes in the Apple iOS. So everything's done from the settings area. So we're good there. I hope you got that one correct. And next, we're going to tap on the Wi-Fi settings button. So the Wi-Fi settings button is under settings. So that gets us to step number 3. Very, very easy so far. Next, we're going to have to choose a network label. We're basically choosing the SID we're working with. So we're going to choose our network we're going to be dealing with in our wireless. If, however, we do not find our network name or it's not being broadcast, that's when we would choose the other button. So I'm going to let's change this. Let's change this to what would be better here. Let me put some spaces. We'll call this 3A. If you don't find a network, you would choose the other button, right? If you were using a non-broadcasting SSID, this is what we would have to use. All right, so let's say we pass that point. What do we do next? Well, in that case, we would have to put the name in the field, wouldn't we? Name in the field. Now, after all that, we would have to do something else. What would we have to do? We would have to tap on the security button. Now, this security button would allow us to choose the type of security we would use in our environment. So we would tap on security and we would be choosing in our Apple iOS WPA2. That is the main supported protocol for this iOS. Now, once the wireless network protocol has been selected, we would tap back on the other network to go to the previous pane. So we would go back to the other network if necessary. We're adding more here. Other network. And then what would we do? Well, now we have to actually enter our credentials, don't we? You can see it actually down at the bottom on the screen. We would enter our credentials that would allow us to join the actual network. So we would either password and then our username or username and password, however you want to say it, and then you would tap on the join button. I just went 6, 7, 8 there. I just realized that. Well, that's kind of 4 and 5. We'll leave it at that. And then 9, last but not least, the check mark displays. So the check mark will display the network you had joined. So you are basically going to confirm that you have joined the network. So that's the process for our Apple iOS device. I hope you understood that process and were very clear with how everything went together.